$100. That's the price of a barrel of oil as of this week, for the first time since May, up from $70 before the war started in February. And this week, the conflict that's been driving that number added a new front. I'm Skelly. It's Sunday. The energy situation has gotten more complicated. Let's go. Let's start with the number, because the number tells the whole story. Brent crude oil traded near $100 a barrel this week, on track to gain nearly 14% in a single week, as escalating Middle East tensions heightens fears of deeper global supply disruptions. The price of Brent crude oil is up almost 40% this month alone. For context, in early February, before the start of the war with Iran, Brent crude was trading under $70 a barrel. That is 43% increase in oil prices since February 28th. And this week, for the first time since May, it crossed the $100 line again. Here's what that means at the pumps, and I want to be direct about it because some of you are going to feel this before next Sunday. Patrick DeHaan, an analyst at the price tracking gap GasBuddy, put it plainly when asked whether gas prices will move. Quote, "The answer is yes, and up. For now, the foreseeable future is pretty easy to call. It's going to be up." Analysts are now warning of $5 per gallon gasoline, with oil inventories and strategic reserves depleted, and Saudi Arabia's ability to ship oil severely hampered. One market analyst described the latest advance as being driven mainly by large geopolitical supply premium, rather than a sudden improvement in global fuel consumptions. With Trump's warning of heavy strikes against Iranian nuclear locations, continued U.S. military involvement, and further action around Iran's increasing fear that crude shipments through the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandeb could face simultaneous pressures. That phrase, simultaneous pressures on both the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandeb, is a key development this week, and I'm going to spend the next segment explaining exactly what happened to make that phrase a reality. But first, what to do with this information practically right now. Brent crude is back above $90 a barrel, just weeks after falling to pre-conflict lows around $70 a barrel. The core issue remains unresolved: whether passage through the strait is administered and by whom. The 1 to 2 week lag between oil prices spikes and pump prices spikes that we've described on this program throughout the year is still the mechanism. Oil hit $100 on Thursday. Your gas stations will reflect that within 7 to 14 days. If you've been meaning to top off your stored fuel, do it this weekend before the pump catches up to Thursday's price. Use stabilizer, approved containers, and rotate your fuel. We've covered this before. Now is a specific moment to act on it. If you drive regularly and your tank is less than half full right now, fill it today. Not because gas is going to run out, but because every day you wait this week is potentially more expensive to fill up than the day before. If you have been treating the $100 oil threshold as something that might happen, it happened. Thursday. Act accordingly. Story number 2, and this is a story that sent oil over $100. On Thursday, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels struck 2 Saudi Arabia tankers in the Red Sea with ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. The tankers Encilia and Layla, leading to fires on both vessels. It was their first reported attack on a vessel since they announced a blockage of the Saudi-linked shipping through the Bab al-Mandeb Strait earlier this week. The Saudi government confirmed the attack on the Encilia. The Houthis said the tanker had violated the blockade they had imposed on Saudi ports. The Bab al-Mandeb Strait connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Around 12% of the world's trade, including a fourth of the global container traffic, passes through there, moving between Europe, Asia via Egypt's Suez Canal. I need you to understand what is now happening geographically. The Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of the world's oil passes, has been effectively closed or contested since February 28th. That's the eastern checkpoint. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, through which 12% of global trade and significant oil shipments passed, is now under active attack by the Houthis. That's the western checkpoint. Both checkpoints, simultaneously, actively contested. At least 7 vessels changed courses to avoid transiting through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in light of the Houthis' blockade on the Saudi ports. Asian buyers have now been discussing rerouting Saudi crude shipments through the Suez Canal and around Africa, a route that had weeks and significant costs to every shipment. Adding to supply constraints, the Caspian Pipeline Consortium suspended crude loading at its Black Sea terminal after tankers' attacks, disturbing around 80% of Kazakhstan's oil exports. I want to be precise about what this means and what this doesn't mean. It does not mean that the global oil supply is about to run out. It does not mean that the gas stations will run dry next week. What it does mean is that every alternative shipping route that the world has been using to work around the Houthis' disruption is now also under threat. The Red Sea route, the Caspian, the Saudi export terminals. President Trump said the U.S. will hold Iran responsible for Houthi attacks, and the U.S. completed its 12th consecutive night of strikes on Iran this week. Trump met with top advisors Friday to discuss his options on Iran, including the possibility of significantly expanded military action. He told reporters, "As you know, we're locked and loaded." Iran reportedly rejected a U.S. ceasefire proposal that Iraq's Prime Minister Ali al-Zadi carried to Tehran, with Iranian officials indicating that Iran believes it has the advantage in this phase of the war. Iran believes it has the advantage. In Iran, 59 people has been unalived and 666 others injured since June 27th. At least 4 U.S. service members have been unalived in the most recent wave of Iranian strikes. Neither side is signaling to a return to diplomacy. Both sides are expanding their target sets. And the Houthis, who have been quiet for months, just reopened the Red Sea front. This situation this Sunday is materially worse than it was last Sunday. This is the honest assessment. Plan accordingly. Our third story, and this one differs from the first two. The first 2 stories are about what's happening. This story is about what to do about it, right now, this week, in the Ohio Valley. I have been covering the Iran war and its downstream effects on this program since May. Every week, I've told you what the prep lesson is. Every week, I have said food storage, fuel reserve, cash on hand, and reduce your dependency on systems under stress. This week, I want to consolidate all of that, because we're now at a point where this situation has escalated enough that the general "you should prepare" is no longer sufficient. I want to give you the specific, concrete, numbered actions for this specific week. 1. Fill your gas tank today, not tomorrow. Today. Oil's at $100. The pump hasn't caught up yet. The 7 to 14 day lag means this week is your window. 2. If you don't have stored fuel yet, get some this weekend. 5 to 10 gallons in approved containers with stabilizer. This is not hoarding. This is a sensible buffer against a situation that has now demonstrated it can spike prices by 40% in a single month. 3. Check your food storage. We are now approximately 6 weeks from September, the month that food system experts told us to expect higher grocery prices due to the fertilizer shortage caused by the strait closure. If your pantry isn't where you want it to be, the next 4 to 6 weeks are your best window before prices move. 4. Have some cash on hand. You don't need a lot, but some. $200 to $300 in small bills accessible at your home when situations escalate and card systems experience stress. ATM lines form. Cash is universal. And 5. Know your financial cushion. Gas at $5 a gallon, which analysts are now calling a real possibility, costs families that drive regularly an addition to $200 or $300 per month. This is a real budget impact. That number would be putting your household in a difficult situation. Now is the time to identify where you can make adjustments. I want to say something about the nature of this moment, because I think it's worth saying plainly. Since February 28th, nearly 5 months, we have been tracking a conflict that has produced, in sequence, a closed strait, a global fuel crisis, a supply chain disruption, a fertilizer shortage, a food price spike warning, 7 consecutive nights of U.S. airstrikes, which now is 12, a rejected ceasefire, $100 oil, and now a second active front in the Red Sea. Each one of these developments was predictable from the one before it. None of these was a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention. The people who prepared in March, in April, in May, when the situation was serious but not yet at this level, did so at lower prices, with more options and less urgency. The people who are preparing now, today, this weekend, are doing it at $100 an hour oil, with $5 gas potentially coming, with both choke points under simultaneous pressure and with less runway than they have 5 months ago. But they are still preparing, and that is what matters, because the alternative is not preparing, and that is demonstrably worse. The window is smaller than it was, but it is not closed. Use it. That's your week. Oil crossed $100 a barrel for the first time since May, up 43% since the war began in February, up 40% in this month alone, with analysts calling for $5 gasoline being a real term possibility. The Houthis struck 2 Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea and opened a new front in the conflict, putting simultaneous pressure on both the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandeb, the 2 most important shipping checkpoints in the entire world. Iran rejected the U.S. ceasefire proposal, and Trump met Friday with advisors to discuss significant expanding the war. 5 months in, 2 fronts, $100 a barrel, and a ceasefire that both sides say they don't want right now. Your action items for this week are on the screen. You've already heard them. This Sunday, this afternoon, prepare against a situation that has been building for 5 months and shows no sign of resolving before the fall. This is Skelly, the star of Ohio Valley Prepping. We'll see you next week. Assuming we're all still here.
Hey guys, all of our videos now are sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Emergency food, water filtration, solar generations, and more. Go check them out. Link down in the description. And if you use that link, yeah, we do make a few pennies, but helps us keep doing what we're doing. Thanks a lot, guys. Go check them out.
Get off my show, meatbag.